Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Happy Pride 2021. And thank you for tuning in to Truth and Power today. This is Saturday, June 19th. And here in America, it is Juneteenth. You should do a little research about that, but I'll share what I do know. In the beginning of time, American history, in 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation was announced by Abraham Lincoln, which freed the slaves. However, in Galveston Bay, Texas, they did not know until 2,000 troops, Union troops came in 1865, 2 years later, guys, to let them know that they were free slaves, okay? And now, June 19, 2021, it is an official federal holiday. But a lot more work to do. But that's not why I'm here today. We're talking to an amazing panel about LGBTQ plus issues. And I want to welcome all my guests here. And I'll start with Puya Mosini. She is a writer, activist, trans activist, let's get that right, and actor. Hello, Puya.
Hello, my love. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And now I would like to share, we have Sherry. Oh, Sherry, I'm about to butcher your last name. Biscansini. Did I do it right? Biscansini. Sherry is a celebrity hairstylist of Law and Order SVU, and I've known Sherry for a few years now. I would say, How many? About 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
Yes. And fast friends, and someone that I really watched and adored, and I love your work ethic, and I love just your creativity. I've seen her change wigs from shake out of the bag into a masterpiece. So, Sherry, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And last but not least, my dear friend, Jesus Garza, owner of Modo, Modo Designs. Did I get that right?
Yes.
He's based in Mexico City and also New York City.
Correct.
And welcome, Jesus.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, D'Angelo. Say hi, everybody.
I wanted to mention before we dive in that this is really to focus on all gay rights, LGBTQ rights, and to talk about our issues, not only within the United States, but globally. Jesus is in Mexico City. Friends are tuning in from all over the world. So we really want to think this conversation in a very open, global, international reach. And also, we have a charity partner today. It's the National Center of Transgender Equality, and it's transgenderequality.org. Okay, so we'll talk about that throughout the show, and let's welcome all our guests. Welcome, guys.
Thank you for having us.
That was a mouthful. That was a lot to say. Puya, I don't know how you do it as an actress, how you remember all your lines and everything. So that's just, whoa.
Sometimes I don't.
Yeah. It's definitely an art form. I have a question for all of you. What does pride mean to you? I'll start with Puya.
I've written about it, and I'm also not a proponent of pride as a month. I am a proponent of everyday pride because, we're all still here at the end of June.
Right.
We still need support. We still want safety and a place at the table and a place in society and all of those things that everybody wants every day. So I'm not a fan of just 1 month of it because it makes it a commercial. But what is pride? Is being proud of who you are.
Yes.
Whatever that may mean. And it specifically is important for marginalized groups because those groups usually have been told they don't have rights. They shouldn't have rights. There is something wrong with them. The world would be better if they just knew their place or if they didn't exist. So especially for young people in those communities, it's important to know and believe that who they are and how they are is wonderful as is.
Yes, thank you. And Sherry, what does pride mean to you?
What Puya said was beautiful, and what I probably wouldn't have been able to say so eloquently, but just to add on that, just being able to see other people living their truths and that being like a permission slip to be who you are too. That's really important. I think like the visibility is really important, and seeing people or hearing a story like yours is so important, no
Yes.
matter where you're coming from.
Very true. Jesus, what does pride mean to you?
Well, I think pride means to me being human,
Mm.
being part of this world, being part of this society. And like these beautiful ladies just said, uh, so be proud of who you are. And no matter what, no matter where you are, what are the conditions, nothing. You have to be proud of who you are so you face the future in such a better way.
Yes. And does pride always have to be a political statement, guys, or is it just humanity, human rights?
I think there's a difference between what should be and what is.
Ah, powerful.
It should be just being human and being alive,
Yes.
but that's not the reality.
Yes.
The reality is pride is used as a political weapon, usually against it. So then the force, for it would also have to be political, because we are talking about policies that affect the lives of people who we are talking about. So then it inevitably becomes political, because a politician goes up and says these people shouldn't have rights, or they should have rights, and then that's why you vote for them or not vote for them. So should it be political? No, because it's just the essence of being human and having the right to be a human just like anybody else.
Right.
Is it political? Very much so.
Very much so. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. Yes,
Yes.
definitely. I think it's a shame that we all use pride sometimes as a leverage to get to somewhere when it shouldn't be a leverage. It should be, like you said, Julia, the right to be human.
Right. Right. And you know what's interesting, Sherry? I find that all of the sponsors jump up during Pride Month. You know, every corporate sponsor you can imagine is around for Pride Month. But however, within a lot of their policies within their companies, especially if they're privately owned, not so pride friendly, not so gay, lesbian, gay, transgender friendly. What do you think about that?
I have a lot of thoughts around that. It's to capitalize on a group's marginalization. That it seems wrong to me if they're not actively finding or sourcing, change, kind of in putting that in, like, behind a politician that's going to drive for social change.
Right.
Then what are they doing?
Right.
They're just putting a rainbow flag on it saying, hey, we like the gays, come shop at our place. It's like, okay, that's great for the month of June, but what about the things we actually need? Like, what about, bathrooms that are non-gendered? What about gay couples being able to be married? What about the rights of these kids that are born to gay parents? What about the
equality at their own, sharing? Sorry to interrupt, but equality at their own companies when they, at work.
Exactly.
I mean, what about that? What about having, a woman having a higher position? What about having a transgender joining the director side of the company? What about gay people walking into their doors and not being marginalized?
And paid equality and pay equality. A lot of us have great positions in this world, in this industry, if you will, especially Sherry and Puya, but sometimes we're not equally paid for the same job that we're doing because we are marginalized. Jesus, I would say to you, what do you think about corporate sponsorship during Gay Pride Month, especially in Mexico? Does it happen there as much as it does here?
Oh my God, it's just as much as anywhere in the world. It's Mexico being one of the top economies coming up. It's really incredible how many corporates they use, and that's the word to to have here, is they use this month to profit. They
Right.
also, a lot of companies, as I have to say, I'm very proud that I know a couple of people that they work very hard in these companies, that they're incredibly involved in equality inside their companies. And I'm
Mhm.
very happy to see that. But still, the majority of them, they just use this for profit. And happens just as much as happens in the US.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a marketing tool for sure. I know that I've gone to World Pride. I went to the one in Amsterdam, I believe it was 2016, and I was just like in awe of all the corporate money and individuals from all over the world, especially countries that are not gay friendly. Actually, you could be killed or port, I don't want to get into too much detail about it, but you could be killed or you could be set afire. And I
Yes.
noticed that there were people from countries in Africa and the Middle East at Gay Pride, loud and proud there. But I knew when they went home, it was a different situation. So I think companies and governments need to speak to this, year round, not just for the month of June. Yeah,
Yes.
I would
Yes.
agree. So I'm going into a more personal thing with each of you, and I'll share mine as well. Tell me your coming out story. Tell me your coming out story. I'll start with Jesus. What's your coming out story?
Wow. So it's a long story. So we have enough time, I guess, right?
Where's my tea? Hold on.
Right. So I was with my first boyfriend who had left me for an American because he wanted to be an American. And then after all these years, I became one. It's really funny. So yeah. So anyway, he had left me, and I wasn't able to eat much for a couple of weeks. So I was eating like an apple a day and sleeping like 2 hours, 2 hours a day because I was so depressed. Yes,
Mhm.
amazing, amazing. I look incredible. Um, uh, and uh, and I worked a lot because I had my own business as always. I had my own business and I was working like 14 hours days and things like that. And then one day my mom called, right? And she was very stressed about my youngest brother had left the house because he had fought with my father, which was unheard of. My father was the sweetest person in the world. And so he had fought with my father and and he moved to one of my aunt's houses. And my aunt lived 2 blocks away. My mom was so distressed, like my brother had moved to the other side of the world by himself, right? And I was just so upset that she had upset me for this thing that I started talking to her and I said, you know what? Well, this happened to me. And, I'm the one who should be upset because he had left me after 4 years together and I'm alone. Da, 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 da. And my mom was shocked because she was always very religious. And later on, I understood why she was upset. I'll tell you at the end. So she hung up the phone after, she couldn't say anything else. She hung up the phone. And the next day was my father calling me because it was Sunday and they will always call me. And my father called instead of my mom and he said, I just want you to know that you're my favorite son.
So you came out to your mother in the conversation?
Yeah, I came up to my mother in the conversation and then I said, don't tell my dad because I'm going to
Of
be
course
there
she
in
did.
2 months. I'm going to talk to him face to face. And of course she did. And my
Mhm.
father called me and it was the best thing ever happened to me
Wow.
because my father was the most,
Oh, I get it.
I still get emotional. Sorry.
It's okay.
And he, uh, he said, sorry.
It's okay.
We love you.
See,
Love
yeah,
you.
yes, yes.
Yes.
And so I had such a different come out that so many people. I think, and I see myself as one of the luckiest persons in this world
Mhm. With
because
family support. Yes.
all the time, yeah, all the time, yeah. My parents were always behind me. My mom was really upset because not because of religion or because of the whoever is going to say anything. she was upset because she thought I was going to be alone.
Oh, yeah. I
That's
think
it.
that's our parents' biggest fear.
Yeah.
You know, not to cut you off, but I think that's a lot of our parents' biggest fear. Number one, possibly we could be alone, and possibly that we may not ever have children. You know, which is
Yes.
totally different now. Of course, you can.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would
Yes.
agree. I would agree.
Yes. And after I had a long conversation with my mom, she was my best friend as well. My father, I talked to my parents every day from New York, and wherever I was, I would talk to them for a couple of hours.
Mhm.
You know, yeah. My mom taught me how to cook on, on FaceTime.
Oh, you're a great cook. You're a great host. You
Thank
know.
you.
So Sherry, what's your coming out story?
Uh, well, I guess I was thinking about that, and I guess for me, it was more coming out to myself
Mm,
and kind of finding myself within this place. I don't know, I kind of always struggled with my identity and what that meant to me and what it meant to other people. And I think I've arrived at this place where me coming out was more important to me and owning my truth. And I was thinking about this I came out, I guess, officially when I was 19 years old. And I came out first to my best friend, Juan, and I was walking through DC and I'm like, I, I think I'm gay. And he's like, okay, and he's a gay man. And I was like, okay. It was a lot easier than I thought it would. But I thought saying by saying those words, it would mean that I would be fully embodied. And I guess
mm,
it didn't do that. And so I was still kind of figuring out what that meant and what that looked like. And when I looked at other gay women, I was like, I don't have that experience. That's not me. That's not how I live. That's not what that looks like to me.
right.
But when I was a kid, I remember like seeing a family, and I didn't have a face. I didn't have a body. It wasn't like really me, but I imagined like another mom, another woman that I was with, and having children and having this house. And I was 19. I just moved to the city, and I went to go see Catherine Opie. She's a photographer. She's a gay artist.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And there's one portrait of her, and it's her back, and in it, it's her back, and it's like a cutting, and it's two females and a little girl, and inside of like just a basic kid's drawing of a house.
Yes.
And it was the first time I stood in front of something, and I just like erupted in tears because I was like, oh, I want that.
Yes. It's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow, this is emotional, guys. Yeah, I didn't expect this. Yeah, I know you and I have talked about it when I interviewed you for the magazine Soulivity. So can you share your coming out story? And I think you basically have two, if I'm not mistaken.
I probably have a few, but the two main ones, which is one of the reasons why trans kids are such a part of my heart, because here I was, this 4-year-old, this 6-year-old, this 7-year-old who had to learn how to hide myself, because while I didn't know what was going on, I knew that the world outside had a problem with it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that children pick up.
Yes.
They know. They may not have a word for it, but they know things about it. So I knew, like, I would dress in my mom's clothes. I would play mom in, when I played with my kids, but we didn't talk about it. It wasn't addressed, even though like my mom had taken me to a therapist when I was like 3, and then when I was 8, and then when I was 11.
Wow.
But it was like, just Puya, like, don't act like that. Don't do that. My mom, she was like, now to her credit, I have to say that she was like the silent observer, which is very uncharacteristic of my mother, because my mother comments on everything. But she didn't, and that's credit to her, because she would see that I was like using her makeup or whatever. But the first time we had words was when I was 16.
Mm-hmm.
As Jesus said, I had this period that I felt very lost.
Yes.
there was a little bit of a breakup with someone that I really cared for, and it was around my gender identity. I wasn't eating, I wasn't socializing, I was mostly in my room. Uh, I was very thin and very undernourished. And my mom took me to a therapist, and I remember one of the first things I told the therapist was that these are the things I think about, so I understand that I'm crazy. Because that's what I thought. We take for granted we live in a world that you can look something up on the internet.
Right.
But when you live in a world that there's no internet, that you have never seen anybody who's different, that you have never talked about anybody who's different, it's like an episode of Twilight Zone.
Right.
It's like, here I'm in a world that doesn't understand who I am, doesn't see me, so there must be something wrong with me.
And this is Iran, right? This is Iran.
And I'm 16. This would be 1994.
Wow. Okay.
And this is the first time that the doctor mentioned the word, like, no, you're not crazy. You have what is known as gender identity disorder. At that time, they called it a disorder. And gender dysphoria, and the word transsexual, which now feels very dated, was used. But my mom's first response was, I heard the doctor, I understand, but we live in a world that you can't do anything about this until your father and I pass away. And that was like a death sentence to me.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was a teenager. I mean, so it's like basically somebody's telling me that your happiness will come when your parents die. Can you imagine where you're placing your child? And so that gave a start to a year which was very dark, suicide attempts, very self-destructive behavior, because when you feel that your life has no purpose and worth, you don't do anything to preserve it. And I'm not going to go into details as to what, but I'm sure everybody here knows what I'm talking about.
Yes.
But then my parents decided that they had a choice between a dead son or an alive trans child. And that was a very difficult moment for them in their world. They didn't have support. They didn't have the education. They didn't have anybody they could talk to, because that is also extremely important for parents and families of queer people to be able to talk to someone about their fears. Like you said, parents want their children to do well. They want them to have a place in society. And when they can't talk about it, their fear then gets reflected onto the child. So that was the big moment in my life. But then there was a second huge coming out, which was about 6 years ago on the day of marriage equality. And I had transitioned many years prior to that with the hope of becoming stealth, because that was the way I saw forward to surviving, going to school, getting an education, which is why I never had a path into ballroom, because we had come here with the purpose of finding this new life. And so my goal was to become invisible. I successfully became invisible. And there's sadness and a little bit of shame that's attached to that I put so much effort into becoming invisible so I could become part of society. Until 6 years ago, I decided, no. The kids in our society, they need to know that there are other people like them. They need to know that there are people who are willing to stand up and risk their lives. And what did I risk? At that time, I saw that I was risking my entire career, whatever I had at that moment. And I found peace in that there was something more important than a career. And that was, one, to own myself, that I had struggled so hard to achieve and be, but also to be there for the younger members of my community and say, you're not alone.
Yes.
There are people who are willing to stand up for themselves and you. So come on, you will find your path, but just know there are people along the way who are there for you. And I haven't looked back. I'm very grateful for that moment.
I remember a model telling me on a job that she was that she was a trans female, and I was like, I know. Because she wanted a reaction, and I didn't give her that. I'm like, babe, you're beautiful. I love you. It doesn't matter. We're here to work. And from what I understand, Puya, you were passing. And then you decided to say, hey, I'm a trans woman.
And I talk a lot about passing. why it was so important to people. And it's
Mm.
not exclusive to just trans people, people of
Oh,
color,
yeah. Yes.
they needed to. And like I talk about it as a reference to history as to what its significance was in livelihood and safety and
Mhm.
finding your life, but also the burden that puts on you, because
Yeah.
while on the surface you're like everybody else, underneath you have this fear of being found out, and
Yeah.
that is very heavy. So yeah, in a way, it's like I'm like I'm tired. I'm tired of carrying
I
this.
love that. Yes.
No, I don't want to do it anymore.
Yes. Guys, we're going to take a commercial break very soon and we'll be right back. Brian, if we can hop off, that'd be great. And we'll be right back. Thank you very much.
Have you ever asked the question,
Guys, this was great.
if I was to be anything, what would I be? Regardless of money, regardless of status, beyond popularity and fame. Living your passion, feeling your life has purpose. Soulivity is a space to nurture that which lives in all of us. A place where work can become play, and doing what we love creates the dreams of a lifetime.
Difficult time these days. Do you really want to sit in a doctor's waiting room when you feel unwell? There is a better way. Introducing telemedicine by Teladoc. Cost-effective access to a nationwide network of board-certified doctors wherever you are. How does it work? Let's say you or someone in your household doesn't feel well. Just call the toll-free number to speak with licensed board-certified physicians via phone, video call, or chat, whichever you prefer. Average doctor response time is 10 minutes. Majority of the time, the doctor can diagnose your problem and even call in a prescription if medically needed. With our included RX Valet service, you can even save money on that prescription and have it delivered to your home. But what if your ailment is more of an emotional well-being? When struggles fall outside of the realm of physical health, Teladoc Behavioral is there for you. You're able to schedule a convenient time to connect with a licensed mental health professional that can discuss your most pressing non-physical related problems. And just like the Teladoc service, the same kind of prescription benefits are included when medically needed. All services have no visit fees and are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days per year. A better you without ever leaving your home. Welcome to Health Perks.
Welcome back to Truth and Power. We were talking about our coming out stories, which are very powerful, and I'll share mine. It'll be very brief. I think I came out fan kicking basically as a kid. Ta-da! But like many, I grew up in a very religious household, especially my mother. I'm originally from the South, from Mississippi, so there was a huge religious component. But I knew in my heart and my soul at a very young age that I was attracted to boys. I would say my most, vibrant memory would be I was around 5 or 6, and this little redhead boy and I were in first grade fondling each other. So that kind of lets you know. So did I have girlfriends? Did I have boyfriends? Yes. But I knew at a very young age that I liked boys. So as I got older, around 18, I'm skipping over a lot of stuff, but around 18, my mother approached me and said, "Are you funny?" I knew what she was saying. I'm like, funny as in faggot, as in gay, as in sissy? I named them all. I said, if you were asking me that question, the answer is yes. And then she went into this whole thing about you're going to get AIDS and this, that, and the other. This is right in 1988, 1989, when so many people were getting infected and we really didn't know what was going on. And my mom worked in a hospital, so she was dealing with a lot of patients that were HIV positive or full-blown AIDS. And I said to her, I said, Mom, I said, you're coming from this with so much venom and you take care of these people. I said, well, I've been going out as young as 13. So she didn't know this for 5 years, right? So I was exposed to gay culture. I knew what was going on. And I think having that moment and having her come at me in such a aggressive manner, it broke my heart, because as a young kid coming of age and coming out, it was very hard to hear my mom talk as a spiritual person, religious person, be so unkind to others. So it took us about 10 years for our relationship to heal. Because she was always like, you should meet a nice girl, you should get married. And then one day I brought my boyfriend home when I lived in San Francisco. I was like, let's go to Chicago, you come with me. And like a good Southern woman, she made dinner, she made sure that Tommy was extremely comfortable. And I saw a different side of my family. I saw how loving they could be. And I was surprised. My stepfather was very gracious. And he would always ask when I would come back a month later, or 2 years later, or a year later, how's Tommy? And that was his way of saying, I see you. I see you. And I can give him credit for that, because a lot of men, especially Black men, will not necessarily honor that, And I knew by him asking about my partner, he was letting me know that I see you and I validate who you are. We never had a conversation or interaction. I had it more from my mom, which I was surprised. Now she's totally open and friends, and it's just amazing trying to find acceptance and finding my own voice and being very authentic in who I was and not compromising who I was for anyone, not at work, not at school, and it did cost me, I'm sure, along the way. But that's the next question about being your authentic self, right? Being authentic is the best you can do, and people are going to love you or they're not, right, guys? As you walk through life, they're either going to love you or you're not. So my next question really is about, how can I put this? Do you think there's been progress in the LGBTQ community in the 21st century, like right now? Do you see a lot of progress? I will start with Jesus.
Yes, I think there's a lot of progress. I think there's a lot of things that we still have to do, and to make sure that we live fulfilled lives as the gay community, as transgender community, But I see a lot of progress. I remember, seeing all this horrible information about gay people and how you're going to die, and when I was young.
Mm-hmm.
And now everything had changed. Well, most everything had changed.
Right.
I don't feel uncomfortable walking around, even in Mexico City, I have to say, hand by hand from another man, from his arm, or in New York, or give him a kiss on the cheek, even in the business, in my business community, where I have met so many incredible, successful, intelligent gay people that some of them that became good friends of mine. And when we say hi, we hug and we kiss on the cheek, and nobody says anything. This is not an issue anymore, and I find that incredibly rewarding for me, because it's freedom. It's freedom. It's being human. It's being part of the community, of the whole world, not just part of this little community and you are on this side.
Mm-hmm. Sherry, do you see progress?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I guess I'm privileged. Where I grew up in a very conservative Christian church. And there was one gay person that I knew of, that I was growing up with, that I went to high school with. and they were kind of shunned away from my church community, and they were so I'm coming from that, and then I moved to DC, where that's the time that I came out, and my best friend was a gay man, and I went to hair school, so it was just like I came into this I came into a community that was already very comfortable with living out. And I remember talking to my friend who's 17 years older than me, and how he came out and what his experience was like. And I recognized my privilege in being a younger person who's kind of benefited from all of the work that generations before me have worked for. Because I remember him talking about, not feeling comfortable going across the country and holding hands with his partner. And, I was like, what do you mean? Like, I walk around holding my girlfriend's hand all the time. It's not a problem, and I realize that I'm very privileged in that way. And I think that we have come far, but I think we still have a long way to go, I think, it takes the courage of people living in their truths, and it also takes people sitting back and listening.
Yes, I agree. Puya.
I think progress is a 60-40. Like, we move forward 3 steps, we move back 2 steps. Case in point, we're still fighting for abortion rights.
Right.
This is not a new thing. It's like over the past 50, 60 years, we've moved forward 2 steps, we moved back 2 steps. The bathroom thing. And I feel it's kind of like these layers of society and how people react to it. So it's like in the LGBTQ. I remember when I went to FIT 20-something years ago, one teacher said, well, it's okay if you're a gay man. Why do you have to pretend to be a woman? I was like, okay, they're completely not understanding what is going on here. And that's also when I realized that it was more acceptable for me to just say I was gay than trying to question this other norm that was obviously more sacred than just saying that I had an attraction, because what I was talking about was this fundamental concept of gender.
Right.
And the politics in Iran are very different. Like, it's kind of okay to be trans, but you can be executed for being gay. It's not as simple as that, but these are kind of like the distinctions drawn. And then in this country, it's the opposite. Like, it's now more acceptable to be gay or lesbian. I think it's because people have been a little more used to it in media, talking about it, conversation. And trans is almost like this thing of like, why do you have to do it? Why do we have to learn this new thing? Why do we have to address this other thing? Why is it not enough that gay people have rights and lesbian people have rights and bisexual people have rights? It's almost like, well, we gave you this much, why do you want more? As opposed to understanding it's not the same thing. So is progress happening? Absolutely. The fact that we're having this conversation now and we did not 10 years ago, that is progress. The fact that, I told you, like, being the first Middle Eastern trans person to play a judge on a show like SVU, I'm the first. Now, that may not have any distinction to anybody else.
Right.
But that's to me, because I'm the first openly trans person of color, specifically from Middle Eastern background, to play a judge on a procedural. I did not play a prostitute. I did not play a person who was beaten and battered on a show like SVU. So that is also progress. And I feel shows like SVU and a lot of other shows that are seen by millions of people, when they put something out there, that's sending kind of like a soft message out there.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. Yes. And what's interesting? I wrote another question like, why are our rights such an issue for the rest of the world? Like, why are we asking for permission to just exist? Jesus. Okay.
Yes. And while Puglia was talking, I wrote something really, really important. And Puglia, you're so right. It's people think that this is new and this is new and this is been here forever. I mean, we as LGBTQ community, we've been here forever since the humans existed. This is not something that we have learned, or this isn't something that is new. And be transgender is not new. It's just we didn't have the
The
means
language,
before,
the
the
language.
technology to do it. The healthcare or the medicines to go through it. But this has been here forever. So why people they get surprised? I have no idea.
I
This
can answer that. I can answer that,
yeah.
Jesus. It's because it's lack of education, you know. And now we have internet, because if you Google first transgender surgery, you will
Mhm.
find out that it's from North Africa almost 100 years ago.
Say,
Okay, so but it's been around for thousands of years, just like
yes.
gays have been and lesbians have been around for thousands of years, and
Yes.
bisexuality, etc. I have a question from the audience, guys. They say, how can I support my family member and loved one with living authentically as an LGBTQIA plus person?
Who wants to take that?
Who wants to take that?
I think you, Puglia.
I mean,
You're
I'm
you're the one who
very
knows
much.
how to talk better than the four of
Stop
us.
it.
I do not agree on that, but I think each of us can bring a
I
particular
think so
perspective.
too.
And my response is, how do you support someone being themselves? You show them that it matters to you. You show them that you support them, that you're going to stand next to them. If somebody says something to them, you become an ally. If you're at a family gathering and somebody's feeling marginalized, go and support them. It's like, it's not any different than supporting people in anything else they do. You show them that it does not change how you see them as a human being. It
Yes.
shows them that you embrace all of them, that you're willing to fight with them and fight for them, that you are willing to be there as a human being. It's really, we think that supporting someone as an LGBT person is any different than supporting someone in any other way. No. How do we support people when they go through a surgery or when they go through a breakup? We're friends. That's
Right.
what we show. We show kindness and humanity, and this is no different.
I'm going to leave you guys with, well, not leave, but 3 words: love, respect, and dignity.
Mhm.
That's it. Okay, Sherry?
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add to that is just meeting them where they are, wherever they are in that process of being who they are, and just supporting that. Not wanting them to be more of one thing or expecting something of them. I think that speaks for anywhere, as anybody, even a kid. Just meeting them where they are and just showing them that you love them just as they are, just as they show up today, just right in this moment. And I think that's takes bravery and, compassion, but just showing them that I think is important.
Yes.
I've been yes.
Yeah,
I've been observing. Jesus?
I'm sorry, and I think something that kind of wraps up everything that the 3 of you very wisely said is listen to that person, listen, don't ask questions, just listen, because that's what we need when we feel lonely. We need to feel part of something. We need to feel that someone is paying attention to us. Just listen, that's it.
Feeling
Just
seen and
listen.
feeling heard is
Yeah.
very human.
It's
Yeah.
interesting. I have a friend, she has a son who's having identity issues. And I said to her, just see him and listen to him. And everything is not always therapy, even though every parent thinks their child needs therapy. Every person thinks they need therapy. But sometimes it's just listening. They're telling you what's going on,
Mhm.
and not pouring your idea into who you think they should be. And I'm
Yes.
sure all my parents, maybe your parents, they had an idea of what they wanted their son to be, And I'm the most driven person you'll ever meet. Trust me.
Yeah, we know. We all know.
Trust me. But, sometimes our parents have this thing because they think they own us, if you will. They love, but they think they own us. Instead of allowing us to be, to bloom, to flourish, to seed, to grow. And I think that's the most important thing, So being seen and heard. I would agree, Sherry and Jesus, everyone. Another question for you guys. Talk about issues that are important to you. You know, Jesus, you mentioned some law that passed in Mexico City. Do you want to share that the other day?
Yes, I'm very happy to hear that in the state of Sinaloa, there's just been passed a law to gay marriage.
Okay.
So very proud of those politicians that they help, very proud of those people that they sent all this force into action, and happy to see move into the right direction for Mexico, which
Yes.
still I'm very happy to say that is my country as the US, because I owe a lot to the US.
Yes. Yes. Sherry, any issues that you have kind of been? I know there are some, so here's your chance.
Oh, are there? Well, one of them that I'm passionate about, that is kind of a departure from what we're talking about, but I feel like I need to talk about it, is Kira's Law. It's currently at the assembly floor at the New York Senate, just went on to the Senate. And it has to do with custody evaluations and in custody disputes within family court and prioritizing child safety in that arena. And I think that's really an important thing that needs to pass. And it's just common sense to protect children.
Yes. Amen. Amen. Huya.
I mean, we live in a world that we're still talking about bathrooms. We're still talking about bathrooms. It's like, I almost want to say, like, to those people who are so concerned about bathrooms, exactly what is it you do when you go to a bathroom?
It's two things.
I want to get out fast.
You know, like, I'm not there to like check other people out. There are so many other better places to check people out than a bathroom. But there's just so much inconsistency, because let's say specifically talking about trans women, because also if you realize when we talk about trans issues, we're not even talking about the whole trans spectrum. We're specifically talking about trans women,
Yes,
girls, but then we just say trans as opposed to like it's like trans men versus trans women. It's like our idea of trans is just this one thing.
right.
But so on one side they say that trans women are really gay men. Okay, so just follow me on this. On one side is that, but then on the other side, you're afraid of those people being in a bathroom with your girls. So which is it? So you think that they're gay, but you don't want them to be around your daughters.
Right.
Now those two dots do not connect.
Right.
You realize it's not about logic. It's like somebody was asking me about sports. You think, and I said, just remember that in the 70s, Billie Jean King won against Billy Ricks.
Yes.
So just keep that in mind. And also having this idea that every person who was born in a body has this. It's like these are these ideas that it's almost like what your grandparents told you. It doesn't have a logical base. Genetics, training, dedication, perseverance, all of those things have a lot more components than, if you're XX or XY, which also, that's not accurate either. It's like there are so many things.
Right there, Puya. Can we talk about this? I'm in school full time for psychology. Some of you know this, some of you don't. But I was in a biology course, and it was saying there's such high numbers of gender identity that it's not XX and XY. It's a whole myriad. And most times parents go in and they say with a doctor, well, we want this to be a boy. And they'll start the gender reassignment. This happens more, and I was surprised at the number. I'll have to look it up, but I was thinking it was a very high number, guys. I thought, wait a minute. I've never been told this in science class. I've never been told this by doctors, but it's a very high number that there are a lot of gender reassignments at birth.
There's also not just two variants. It's not an XY.
Exactly.
I watched this documentary. There are so many variations.
Yes.
XX, XXY, XYY, all of this.
An extra X, yeah, an extra Y.
that feels like we're trying to justify something and explain something. Whereas this is how I explained it at a panel. I said, imagine the Earth, the planet Earth. We have two arbitrary dots. One is North Pole, one is South Pole, and we've decided that this most northern spot on the planet is going to be called North Pole, and that the most southern spot is going to be called South Pole. Those dots really don't exist. We've decided that this is this because then we can measure the world based on that. But even if you take those dots as North Pole and South Pole, the entire Earth's surface happens between those dots.
Right.
It's like a Ken and Barbie thing. If you have a Ken and Barbie, the entire human civilization happens somewhere in between. So somehow it's so difficult to imagine, well, if this is the spectrum and you can be here, then you can also be here and you can also be there. And you can, maybe there's like only 1% of population is here, but they're still there. They're still there. We have all of these other distinctions. Somebody's like this finger can be longer than the other one, or you can have a toe that's this way, or your eye color, or your skin color, or your nose, or all of these things.
Right.
They can be variant, but when it comes to gender and sexuality, it's like, no, it just has to be this or that way. And how I explain it to a child, I'm like, look around the world. Is there anything that is just this or that? Even the most monolithic thing we look at every day, which is day and night, it's not like it's day and suddenly it becomes night. It's day and it slowly gets darker and darker and darker and darker, and then it becomes night, and vice versa. And I said, if we believe in God and we think God is groovy enough to make night kind of blend into day and vice versa, then God is also groovy enough to have the same thing about sexuality and gender. Or at least my God is that groovy. If your God isn't that groovy, I would want a refund.
Right. I will say this. Brian Johnson, who's a publisher of Soulivity magazine, he's researching, thank you, Brian, 11,000 gender reassignment surgeries a year. And this is at birth. Okay? 10 to 15% more a year. It's growing. So that says a lot, guys. Like, think about that. Okay? Think about the games we were playing with people's lives, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. It's just very powerful. I have to move on. We're gonna move on. One thing I'm glad that we are focusing on transgenderequality.org today, and I'm glad that Brian at Soulivity magazine chose this org, because I was saying to a friend earlier today, she's like, but aren't they having a better life? I'm like, they're still being killed, sweetheart. And also, what's the average lifespan of a trans Black woman? Is it 35 or 43? I think it's 35.
35 sounds more accurate.
35. That in itself, someone shouldn't expect to live beyond 35 years. Because they decided to date someone or decided to just be out and proud. Do they not deserve to live? Do not deserve humanity? I'm asking you guys.
This is 1400s or something?
Well, in some ways, Jesus, it is.
Yeah, it is sad.
We're fighting the same thing.
Yeah. Yes, it's horrible. How you can just say that you're going to live on 35 because you're transgender? I mean, aren't you have all the opportunities? Why are you not going to have all the opportunities? Aren't you a person? What's wrong with our society? And that's a broader, what's wrong with, what can we do? What can we do as people, as every one of us, the four of us, what can we do? I think we should teach the people around us how important is respect.
I think we are. By having this conversation, it broadens the conversation. I think it is it's talking to parents of transgender youth to not kick them out, to not disown them. A lot of that factors into it, homelessness.
Yes.
And doing what you can. Yes.
I want to add something to that. This was something we did research when we did the short film that I co-wrote. the difference in suicide attempt rates between trans youth, and I imagine that that's true about queer youth in general, trans youth that gets family support, their suicide attempt rate compared to the ones that do not get support is like, the difference is like 20-something percent. The average rate of trans community who's tried to commit suicide at some point is about 40%. That's 1 out of 2.5 that at some point in their life they have tried. And when they were looking at people who do not get familiar support, it was like 50-something percent. It's even more than half. But then when a right-wing, a conservative commentator wants to address that issue, they're like, see, just trans people are just naturally more depressed and prone to suicide. I'm like, no, this is not the cause and effect. They're not more depressed because they're trans. It's not a genetic thing.
Family.
They're more depressed because they're trans because of how society treats them.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. How people like that commentator treats people. You know, that's that I just like, I get really upset. I get very, very upset with, you know, with these kind of things, because I don't understand how we cannot tell the kids that they're beautiful, no matter what, they're beautiful. And, you know, because if you know that there's beauty in you, God is in you all the time. It's, you were born with a soul. You understand what understand what a soul is. A soul is part of God. One day I have read God is like the sun, right? Because we can't understand. God is, it's just so incredibly
No identity.
immense that we have no idea how to understand God. So in a very low key terms, if God is like the sun and our souls are like the rays of the sun, there's no shadow where we can be on, because we always on the sun side, because we are connected. So we all connected. This God, the sun, connects us absolutely all from here, where your energy comes in, and this is how you touch everybody else. And if you understand that those kids that they are right now lost, they are here with us.
Right. They're us.
We're always touching them, and it's with your actions every day. Driving correctly, being a good citizen, you know, helping others on the street, whatever you do, doesn't matter how small or big you do, that helps to move us forward as humans, I think, and shows others that we are no different of anybody.
Yes.
We're actually part of this world.
You're making me cry.
Oh.
And I will say this before we go to break. I'll leave you with this question: how important is having representation in art in our culture? How important is it to see yourself? So think about it, and we're going to go to a break, and we'll be right back. Thank you, guys.
Look up the dictionary and look up the word autism in the dictionary. And this is the definition that you'll get. It is a neurodevelopmental disorder characterized by obsessive and repetitive behaviors. And what a horrible definition that is, because we're so much more than that. What I would love is for the definition of autism to be changed, because it's so negative. As a child and a young man, whenever you look up words like this and you think, gosh, this is me, it doesn't really leave you with a great feeling, does it? I think it's time for that to change, don't you? What about the more positive things that autism brings? The passion, the drive, the desire. I mean, all you need to do is look up on the internet, autistic individuals. Without us, I'm pretty sure we'd probably still be living in caves and spearing fish for dinner. So maybe it's time to have a look at what defines us as a community, and let's change it.
Life is full of moments. And when sickness breaks your momentum, from the 5 a.m. stomach bug, or stress and anxiety at work, don't forget you have Teladoc. Great care options by phone, video, or app. 24/7 access to doctors. And access to therapists 7 days a week. From anywhere you are. Day or night. Whatever it is, we're always ready to help. So you can get back to enjoying life's best moments faster. Life is good. Enjoy it well.
Welcome back, guys, to Truth and Power. I told you this would be a great conversation, a lot of emotions, a lot of real talk, and just deep connections. And I want to go to Sherry and with this question, and we'll go do the roundtable. How important is representation in our culture? You know, art, film, television, you name it. How important is it?
It can be life-saving, I think.
Yes.
And life-affirming.
Yes.
It's so important. What we see, that's our connection to other people. It's our connection to ourselves. It's a connection to our souls in ways that we won't have the language for. You know, I think when I was talking about my coming out story and seeing that picture of Catherine Opie and her back and scarring, and there was like so many layers to that of what it meant to me and what it does mean to me and how important it was for me to see that. And I've been reading Brandi Carlisle's book, and she talks about her coming out and what that is like for her. And, you know, I relate to so much of her story too. So, you know, all of that is to say that it's so important, and it can be life affirming for someone to say, oh, look, yeah, me too. And I'm not alone, and I'm not crazy, and I'm not, you know, I'm on this journey with so many other people.
Yes.
And that, you know, is comforting. You know, you're not alone. You are with other people. You do have this tribe of caring, loving people that are with you, even if you face, you know, in your own families or you face in your own communities, you know, people that are against that, you still have this wave of people that are coming up underneath of you to support you.
And you're right. It's very life affirming. Reading Octavia Butler and James Baldwin and just tons of authors growing up, I started to see myself in the books, you know, and later in life in the films. I would go to film festivals a lot in my 20s. Every film festival I was at, especially if there was a gay, lesbian, trans, queer experience, I was there. First one in line with my ticket. And it saved my life in many ways. There were points in my life where I was definitely suicidal. I would say I tried twice for sure when I was younger. So I can identify when I see people who are struggling, I can connect, I can see it like a laser vision, and I'll say one thing that hopefully will pull them out of it. So yes, it's important to see it in art. It's important to see it in life, period. You know, Puya?
That's how we see ourselves.
Right.
No, I believe that art does two things. It either shows what is or what can be. And that's what it's always done. If Birth of a Nation can give, you know, birth to a whole slew of racism in this country that lasts decades,
centuries,
we can't deny it. We can pretend that it's not there, but we all know historically it is.
Right.
We know that we talk about trans rights more now because of Laverne, because of Transparent, because of Post.
Yeah.
So we can suddenly be, all of those things we talk about, but no, this is not how art or entertainment or books or television works. It's exactly. What do you think we all have in common? We all sit and watch and get lost in things. Now, depending on what that thing is, the person that comes out on the other end after that hour or those 2 hours, that person is going to be different. Now you can have a choice. Is that person going to be filled with more hate after that?
Right.
Or is that person going to be filled with more understanding and compassion?
Mm-hmm.
Because I grew up with movies where the representation of queer characters would, if there was any representation, it was not positive.
Right.
We were villains.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the first things I remember is Silence of the Lambs, that the main serial killer is like this person who has a problem with their gender and all of that. I was like, this is what I'm watching like at 12. But then on the other side, there's the movie, which now may feel dated, The Crying Game,
Yeah.
who had the first trans heroine in a movie that I remember. And now you can talk about it, it feels dated for X, Y, and Z, and I will completely listen to that. But at that time, it was a character who was not a pathetic character to be pitied.
Mm.
The character did not die.
Mm-hmm.
The character actually ended up saving the story.
Right.
That was life-changing for me. When I'm in things now that portrays a trans character in what I love to say with love and authenticity, is because so the person who watches it, whether they're queer or they know a queer person, this allows them to feel more connected and takes the concept of a trans character away from this other thing that we don't know about to, just another human being who has problems like everybody else, except that their problems happens to be specific in this way.
Exactly.
So art is the mirror to who we are.
Yes. That is quote, end quote. Jesus?
No. I just to support what the two of you said. I think also I think art, it's a way to communicate in such a clear, much more clear than other ways, because you can watch a documentary, you can watch a news, you can watch all these politicians talking, you can watch all these people talk, you can watch us talking, and we still get into a small part of the community. But art actually communicates to everyone and transcends these ideas that however, like Julia said very wisely, however you take these ideas, just your responsibility. That will come through your education and your culture, and you decide if you take it with hatred or with love. And that is
Or
the
fear.
main, yes, or fear, because there's a lot of fear going on here also, because to the unknown, right? But I think when I when I really discovered art, it was a few years ago in New York. Because I like art, but when I really understood more about art, it was after seeing Matthew Barney's The Cremaster.
Love.
That opened my eyes to absolutely all this modern art, that and how to layer it, right? And open it like an onion, and then understand what's behind it. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful. I saw all the movies like 3 times, right? And
Jesus, I had no idea. Do you know
yeah,
that's one of my favorite artists?
yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It's I think he, like everyone else, has that is like the Da Vinci of this era. I think so. He's the Da Vinci of this era because he showed us how, with images, color, and no sound whatsoever, but music, uh, moved us into all these feelings of loss, of hate, of love, everything you see in these movies. So I agree with the two ladies. I think this is very much the way to communicate. Art is the best way to communicate our ideas as a LGTB, so everyone can understand our feelings.
Right. It's interesting. When I need to find inspiration to write, when I need to find inspiration just to get my head out of set life, I go to a museum, I go to a gallery. Cremaster, when I moved back to New York City, was at the Whitney Museum. And I remember going down the spiral, or no, it was the Guggenheim, I'm sorry.
Guggenheim.
Going down the spiral in the Guggenheim to see the exhibit. And I said to myself, I don't know how or when, but I'm going to work with Matthew Barney, put it in the universe. 10 years to the day later, it was Fashion Week. Mordecai, who Jesus knows, was dating someone. And he worked with Matthew Barney's wife at the time, Bjork. And he said to me, I need help with this movie that Matthew's doing. It's called Rue de Fundament. And Mordecai said, D'Angelo. So I was on that film for 2 weeks. I was able to bring in the artist that I work with, and he was above and beyond and kind that I ever thought anyone could be. And to see the representation, if you get a chance to watch it, it's about 4 hours, 6 hours. But if you get a chance to watch it, it is such a beautiful work of art. It's the next step to Cremaster.
Yes.
So art can inspire, you know, it can lift you up, it can bring you down, but it also shows us who we are, as Puya said, and Sherry, that it is the mirror of our world and our society. So we need it. We need a lot of it. One thing I want to move into is pronouns. I will honestly say to each of you, I get confused. You know, I was on a job and I referred to an actress as a biological female. I was immediately corrected, cisgender. I was like, oh, okay, sorry, cisgender female. I was like, oh, sorry. And I was like, whoa, I don't know all these pronouns. So how does one learn all these pronouns? I've Googled, trust me. I've talked to friends, and a lot of us are confused. So, anybody?
It's very simple. You ask.
You ask. Oh, yeah, of course.
You know, because people ask me that, and I'm like, well, I'm like everybody else on this panel. The world I grew up in, there were two pronouns, like he and she. Right. I do not identify as non-binary. I'm probably one of the most binary trans people I know. But what I've also realized, and this is what I tell people, is I also know there's a whole lot I don't know.
Yes, same. Yes.
And the easiest way is because also, you know, when I'm not acting, I'm also a massage therapist. And the greatest joy of my life is that I get to create an affirming environment for queer individuals where they feel like they can be healed without judgment. And I love that. And sometimes I don't know. So I ask, and it's simple as, I want to be affirming. I want you to feel comfortable. So you tell me how you want to be addressed.
Right. Yes. Perfect. That I think that seals the deal with that question. Just ask.
Yes.
I don't need to do a round table on that one.
No.
Ta-da. You're welcome.
Same.
So let's dive into this. We're heading towards the end, guys. So I have two more questions. Conversations and issues came up in 2016, all through till 2020 and beyond. So many issues, LGBTQ issues, racial issues, as Puya was saying earlier, abortion. What is going on? What is going on? I feel like there's a shift happening. I've been saying that to a lot of people. I'm like, yes, it seems very chaotic at this moment, but I think the universe is shifting in a very magical way to show us who people are, to lift the veils, if you will, you know, and to see exactly what we have to work on as humanity, you know. So my question to you, so much was polarized in these past 4 to 5 years. How have you coped with it? The pandemic, racial equality, you know, people being killed because of how they identify. How have you processed all of this? Yeah. Yeah. Jesus. So you did the first exhale.
Living, you know, being between the two countries that I love the most, and seeing the chaos in both of them, it has been very dramatic and hard to cope with. However, I think that a little bit of patience and trust in that we're going to do the right thing at the end of the day, because it doesn't matter what are your beliefs in politics. It's what are your beliefs in humanity.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the most important thing that I have questioned me in this pandemic. What is what you believe in humanity? What I get up every morning?
Mm-hmm.
Because when I get up every morning for a better world, whatever I can do, little, little, because I can do little. That's it. Can do more.
But it starts with us, right? It starts with
Starts with
you.
you. It has to
Yes.
start with you, and then
Mm-hmm.
you just put the seed. That's it. You put
Mm-hmm.
the seed. You can't tell the neighbor what to do. You just have to show them.
Be the example.
Be the
Yes.
example of your little society, and that's how I cope with, because I can't. Oh, who's that?
It's my dog. Sorry.
Love
Okay.
it.
She's like, Mom, take her for a walk.
Yes. So that.
Sherry?
I think we've all been shown a lot over the past couple of years, and I think that's, people have a choice. They can either choose to see it and choose to do something about it, or they can choose to look at it and look the other way.
Right.
And I think now more than ever, the choices that we're having to make are very uncomfortable. They challenge a lot of the beliefs that have sustained us, I guess, or sustained certain people and their safety. And I think when that is put into question or put into their purview, I think it creates a lot of tension and a lot of conflict and a lot of inner turmoil on like the individual level, but on the collective level too. We're being asked to look at these really uncomfortable things, and we're being asked to do something about it. And I think we're all kind of grappling with that. And I think, for me, it's looking at that choice and choosing to do something that's outside of my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
To do something that, maybe I used for survival, which was being quiet, was being, not confrontational and not speaking up. But I realized that it's not helping anybody anymore. It's not helping me. It's not helping my friends. It's not helping the people that I love. So I have to use my voice and I have to speak up. And that's something that, kept me safe for a long time with being quiet, but now it's not serving me anymore. So I have to step outside of that. And I think if everybody started doing that on an individual level, I think we would start to see a lot of really positive collective change.
Sherry, I would agree. I had to do a lot of pushback last year with friends in regards to race and understanding what was happening in our country. They would say things, and normally the old D'Angelo would have been quiet and just kind of like, just not say anything, but also a mental note.
Yeah.
But now I'm just like, no, that's not how it is, and I would say what I needed to say, and then I would say, do your research. I would make the statement, and I would say, do your research, and then I'd walk away. It's the time for us globally. We have no excuse. We have no excuse. This world is going to evolve with us or without us. So I think that's what's really powerful. Puya.
I'm going to go on a historical rant and first of all say that all of these things that have been happening over the past few years that you said, they were always happening.
Yes.
Young Black men were being lynched even when people weren't talking about it.
Yes.
Women were being abused even before people started talking about it.
Yes.
Trans people were being killed.
Yes.
Gay boys were being killed. All of this stuff was happening.
Yeah.
For many, many years, it's just people didn't talk about it.
Right.
And this is the second part of the historical. The good Germans have now been forced to take sides. What do I mean by that? The good Germans, were all Germans Nazis? No. Did they allow it to gain the strength that it did? Absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
And what has happened over the past decade, and I would say probably over the past 2 decades, it's the fact that the polite people have now been forced to take a side. Why? I was talking to a friend of mine and I said, because 20 years ago, an LGBT person at a dinner table would have stayed quiet, like Sherry was saying,
Yeah.
because that's how we stayed safe. A person of color, an immigrant. So we stayed quiet. We've gotten tired of being quiet because it did not improve our lives. It did not improve our lives personally
Yes.
or the lives of people around us. So now people are being forced, the polite people who didn't consider themselves racist or homophobes or xenophobes or phobes of any kind. Now they're like, if you are not fighting for this, you are basically helping the other side, and you have to pick which side of this equation you're on.
Yes.
So this is what people have been forced to do. And we go back to the 60-40 that I said earlier.
Yeah.
I believe that 60% of society is always open to change and inclusion. 40% is not.
Mm-hmm.
So as we're moving forward, we are just finding out who that 60% is and who that 40% is.
Yeah, that's so true. So true. Wow. And I saw that. That's really interesting that you're using that 60-40, because that's coming up a lot in stats. As people are shifting towards consciousness, let's use that word, consciousness, is about 60-40. There are people who are holding on to the old so hard, and there are people who are going, oh, wow, I need to wake up. I need to wake up. Wow. I didn't want to cut you off. Do you have more that you needed to say?
No, and I was saying that it's knowing that 60-40 exists. So it's not like we're not going to come to a point that it's like 100% one thing or another.
Right.
Is realizing that 60-40 has always existed. It's always going to exist. And I will finish it with one thing I said in a panel. The voice of hate,
Mm-hmm.
now whether it's racial, whether it's prejudicial against an immigrant, or you name whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
the voice of hate has always been there. It has always, you look historically, it has always had a manifestation that it has existed.
Yeah.
It is the voice of inclusion, the voice of affirmation and love that has gotten louder.
Yes.
Like Jesus was saying, I can't do anything about the voice of hate. I can't, because that person's hate and fear is not coming from logic. So I can talk until I'm blue in the face. I can't change that.
It's true.
What I can do, I can strengthen the voice of affirmation and love.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the part that I focus on, because that's my 60%.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And choose love. I have one, maybe two more questions. In all of that we've talked about in the past hour and a half almost, what are you grateful for in all of this? What have you learned? What have you grown from all of this? For me, I'm grateful that we can have this conversation and that it can go out into the world and people can talk about it, and either agree or disagree, but at least they're having a conversation. That's my gratitude. Puya, what's yours?
I wanted to jump on this. I'm grateful for many things.
Mm-hmm.
I am grateful for the strong women in my family who showed me how to be resilient, because they were in societies that did not give them room to be who they were.
Yes.
And above all, I grew up in an environment that valued education. And what do I mean by that? The concept that you can always know more. And that is how you become more. And the hatred and what we're talking about, it comes from not valuing education. Because if you've grown up with an idea that you can always know more and that is better, then that means that you will always be different than who you were yesterday. That means you're not going to try to hold on to what you knew 5 years ago, because you acknowledge that it's outdated. But also, other than that, I am grateful for the brave and sassy souls of queer people of color that I came in contact with when I moved to New York 20-something years ago.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And they showed me a world that I did not know. And I don't know how many of those people are still around to tell their stories. But I'm grateful that I got to see them, the bougie middle-class girl that I was. I got to break bread with these kids who were living in group homes, who had been thrown out of their homes.
Yes.
Who were living their lives on the street. And their spirit was so strong that I will carry it forever. And I am grateful for each and every one of those souls that came into my life and changed me forever.
Same. Some of them are not here anymore, and many of them still are. So yes,
They are here. They're
they
all
are.
here.
They're here. Yes, they're here. Sherry.
I'm grateful for for all the people that have come before us to have us be able to sit here and have this conversation, for sure. I think about, I have this image in my mind of the people who have walked through the fire
Yes.
and come back through with buckets of water to help other people. And I'm so grateful for those people that are strong enough to do that.
Yes. Thank you. Jesus.
Wow. Like Julia, so many things to be grateful. But number one, I'm grateful to meet Julia and Sherry. This is incredible. I mean, such a beautiful people, and with so much to offer to the world. I'm grateful to have this incredible family that has always been behind me.
Yes.
To have all these friends, that they embrace me, that they tell me that I can do better every day. And I'm grateful for my parents' love and education that they gave me. That's who I am today.
Yes. Guys, we're going to take a break pretty soon, and I'll come back, and I want to know what you're currently working on. If you'd like to share any websites or links that you'd like to share with us. And then I want to, before we go to break, thank transgenderequality.org for what they do, and for all the orgs out there that help and support the youth, that help and support all of us. I've always volunteered over 30 years now, and it has enriched my life, and I know it has enriched the lives of others. So guys, one thing you can do is step outside of your comfort zone. We'll be right back.
Have you ever asked the question, if I was to be anything, what would I be? Regardless of money, regardless of status, beyond popularity and fame, living your passion, feeling your life has purpose. Soulivity is a space to nurture that which lives in all of us. A place where work can become play, and doing what we love creates the dreams of a lifetime.
Difficult time these days. Do you really want to sit in a doctor's waiting room when you feel unwell? There is a better way. Introducing Telemedicine by Teladoc. Cost-effective access to a nationwide network of board-certified doctors wherever you are. How does it work? Let's say you or someone in your household doesn't feel well. Just call the toll-free number to speak with licensed board-certified physicians via phone, video call, or chat, whichever you prefer. Average doctor response time is 10 minutes. Majority of the time, the doctor can diagnose your problem and even call in a prescription if medically needed. With our included RX Valet service, you can even save money on that prescription and have it delivered to your home. But what if your ailment is more of an emotional well-being? When struggles fall outside of the realm of physical health, Teladoc Behavioral is there for you. You're able to schedule a convenient time to connect with a licensed mental health professional that can discuss your most pressing non-physical related problems. And just like the Teladoc service, the same kind of prescription benefits are included when medically needed. All services have no visit fees and are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days per year. A better you without ever leaving your home. Welcome to Health Perks.
Hey guys, welcome back to Truth and Power. I have probably about 2 to 3 more questions. Guys, what are you currently working on? Let's start with Jesus. What are you currently working on?
Well, I'm doing a lot of things between New York and Mexico City. I still do some architectural interiors.
Mhm.
I'm actually flying on Tuesday to New York to start a house at upstate New York, and later on a new apartment in Manhattan. And I'm doing work all over Mexico in different cities in Mexico. Also, I own a new company that very proud of saying that very successfully are we reps for the most important companies in Italy for the high-end furniture, residential high-end furniture. I'm not going to say the names of the companies because that's
You
not correct.
can, please do.
Well, we represent Casina and B&B Italia, Maxalto, which are the top brands in the world of furniture, residential furniture, and we also started representing just recently Cartel in Mexico and some countries in Latin America
Hmm.
as well. Yes. So
I need a new sofa in LA, so we'll talk
yes, of course.
later. Okay.
Yes, yes. Anything you need,
And
anything
how can
you
we
guys
reach
need.
you, Jesus? How can we reach you?
You can reach me in jgarza at mododesignnyc.com, and or you can look at my website, which is www.mododesignnyc.com to see some of my work.
Perfect. Thank you. And Sherry, what are you currently working on?
I'm the I'm the hair department head on Law and Order SVU, so we're going into the 23rd season.
Wow.
So it's very exciting.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work. And
What
are
a
you
head.
guys, are you doing a whole season, like 10 months, like before?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So this past season, it was kind of truncated because of the pandemic. And then I think we're going back into the full swing of things.
Okay, cool, cool. And the show has been great. I've been seeing it. So thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Puya, what are you currently working on?
Well, I mean, like, I would like to be back under Sherry's hands doing my hair for the Law and Order franchise. I wouldn't say no. Like, I just so love being on that show. One thing that I'm doing is what we were talking about, like, how do I want to change the world? And I realized that while we're sitting here and talking in English, this doesn't exist in my mother tongue.
Yes.
In Farsi, Persian. And one of the things I'm very proud of is whenever I see a young artist who wants to write a story that has a trans character and they reach out, I'm like, well, what if we do this with the character? And what if we do this, kind of like to try to bring breadth to the representation. And especially within the Iranian culture, there's a story we're working on which moves beyond the coming out story, which is usually the narrative of a trans character. And what I'm collaborating with a young Iranian writer and director in LA is, what if we have the story, of a young couple in love, the woman is trans, and that she's going to be introduced to a Persian family. This is something that's never been done in Persian cinema, either in Iran or outside of it. And let that be something that people get to see. How does it happen when a family has to deal with a trans in-law? And, getting past the drama, the tragedy, real, but maybe with a dash of sense of humor. I mean, I'm going to be in it, so it's going to be a little sassy. I know you're so surprised, Angela. And aside from that is I have a lot of kids around the world. We've talked about this, my community kids, people who are in different parts of their journey. Sometimes they grace me by reaching out to me and asking me about my experiences. How did I do this? How did I do that? And not that I can do a whole lot, but I can just affirm them. I can let them know that they are loved, that they are seen, that there are, like Sherry was saying, that there is a community out there who loves them, who affirms them, who sees them. And that's really the most important part of my life.
That's beautiful.
Wow.
Guys, what is the one statement of empowerment you want to leave the world today? The one statement of empowerment that you want to leave with the world today. Sherry, I'll start with you.
Love yourself where you're at. Be brave enough to to have that.
Beautiful. Love yourself where you're at. Jesus.
I think I would say look at the others like if you're looking at a mirror with kindness.
I love it. Love it. Kuya?
What I've always said, stand up for yourself, and then the right people will stand up with you.
Yes. Yes. And I would say the statement of empowerment I want to leave with everyone today is do. There's something I've been practicing called switch words. Switch words are affirmations that you continue to say for 28 times. So if you want to say, wolf magic begin now, it's a way to affect the molecular structure of health in your body, right? So like a wolf, a werewolf, right? They can get hurt, but they heal quickly. Wolf magic begin now. So my thing is do. If you want to start a podcast, do it. If you want to write a book, do it. If you want to be an advocate, do it. If you want more education, do it. I don't seek permission from others for anything. My permission comes from my connection to God, the universe, whatever you want to call it. So that's what I will extend to each of you. That's what I will extend to each of our viewers around the world. Just do it. Stop seeking permission to exist, especially LGBTQ. I'm getting emotional just saying that. Stop asking for permission to just exist. Okay.
Yes.
Guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being on this and taking 2 hours out of your Saturday afternoon, which is very beautiful here in New York. I wish you could see the garden. There's a garden right here. And I will take it in. This is the month of Pride, but this is our life of Pride, and walk through it with pride, each and every one of you. And Puya, we met a few years ago, and our conversation was straightforward. There were no veils. We walked and talked after work. And I can honestly say to you, it was the most authentic conversation I've had in a long time. Because I think people put up walls and nuances and ta-da. I could care less. You know, we had real talk, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Thank you. And also, if anybody wants to find me, the best way is Instagram, Kuyaland, like Disney, but no.
At Kuyaland on Instagram, guys.
Yeah.
And Sherry, you know, I met you at work, you know, but I would always see you and your energy and your just wealth of wanting to learn and grow and evolve. And whatever life was throwing at you, you're handling it beautifully. And I hope you know that.
Thanks.
You're handling it beautifully. And I love where you are, and I know where you're going too. I know we're fellow, you know, people who want to heal you know, the mind through psychology and through learning and expanding. So thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you for giving that space.
Yes, thank you. And Mr. Garza, Mr. Garza, man, you know, I've seen your journey. I met you during a difficult time in your life, and I've seen you go through a lot, but in leaps and bounds, excel, excel, excel.
Thank you.
You know, and I hope you see that, and I hope you honor that, and the sky's the limit. The sky's the limit.
Yeah, the sky's the limit.
Yes. You know, and a special
next we're going with the moon to the moon, right?
Yes.
Next step, we're going to the moon.
Exactly. You know, I'm very thankful to Soulivity magazine. I've been editor at large for a few years now. I've been able to do beauty and gratitude on this platform. And Puya, I think you would be a great addition. Brian, I don't know if you agree, but I think she'd be a great addition to the family. Because it's really about passion, you know, purpose, education, and we're partners with Beyond Words, which also opens up a whole gamut and a whole world of authors and people who talk about not only faith and gratitude, but also our issues, you know, and which I'm very grateful for, to each of you and to Soulivity magazine. So Brian, thank you very much for creating this platform. You know, I hear noise back there, so I know You hear that? Thank you. So, we want to talk. We want to know what you guys are thinking about. If anyone wants to pipe in that is viewing this from all over the world, if you have any questions with anyone on our panel, we have about 15 more minutes. So please pipe away. We're here. So I have a fun little thing I'll throw in the mix since we've been crying for 2 hours. What is your favorite thing about Pride? What is your favorite thing about Pride? I'll start with Sherry.
Glitter? No.
Glitter.
Good answer. Puya.
I think people come out with all their colors unabashedly, and it's beautiful.
Yes, I agree.
I
Jesus?
don't know why it makes me cry, but yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way as Pulia. Seeing people like the way they are, exactly, like expressing themselves, that we shouldn't wait for a month, like we have said. We have 12 months of the year to do that.
Yes, every day.
Yes, and we should be grateful to have that time in here. So let's use it.
It's interesting. I walked past a sign last night, and I walked past it and then I read it and I was like, oh, I need to take a photo of that. And it said, our flamboyance is political. Our flamboyance is political. Often when I see young men and women walking towards me, with short shorts and glitter and wigs and whatever, I'm not talking about drag. I'm just talking about just being, gender crossing as far as how they dress, everything. I love it. And I smile and I wink because they may see me as this kind of conservative, but I was that kid. At Sound Factory, Limelight and Club USA and the Tunnel, in my hot pants, my platforms and my tight tops and my crop. I was that kid. So I smile and hear people may make a comment about it. I'm just like, I tell them right away, I'm like, I was that kid. They're like, really? I'm like, yes. Don't get it twisted.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Don't get it twisted. So, and I think it's important for us. We're elders now, if believe it or not, right? We're elders. I know it's hard to hear, but it's just a way to really just share, guide, educate, right? Share, guide, and educate, and also a reminder of who we were and who we are.
Yes.
I just want to mention the charity again for transgenderequality.org. Please donate. The link is here. And also check out my book, 100 Days of Gratitude. And we also have a seminar with 100 Days of Gratitude. It's called A Life Full of Gratitude. So if you have the book, go and watch the seminar. You'll understand it's an exercise and it really gets you in the mood and the space and the flow of gratitude. And I just want to thank each of you again. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Soulivity Magazine, and thank you, Beyond Words. Truth and Power. I'm D'Angelo Thompson, and I'll see you guys here really soon. Thank you.